All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am very excited for our guest today because we have Noah Graff here. We're going to be talking about serendipity strategies for business success. We got Noah is from Graff-Pinkert. They are a used CNC. I'll let you explain it better than I. Machinery dealer. You're also the host of the Swarfcast podcast. Welcome, Noah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is really interesting. I have never done a live podcast before. And um, after having done like 200 episodes, like it's always fun to be on somebody else's episode and just uh, have the tables turned and
Yeah,
get to see myself in a different way. So
yeah.
I really appreciate you having me. Let's get it started. What do you got, Damon?
Well, so tell me a little bit. So you, we always like to start out with people's history. Kind of, how did you get into what you're doing today, and then we'll work into the topic because you approached and we met through your interesting subject of serendipity in business. And I just want to hit this hard when we get to the end of it. But how did we get here? How did Noah get here today? What's been kind of your path? What's happening in your world?
Yeah, well, I guess that's that's all about serendipity, one thing leading to another.
Yeah.
So I work in a family business, um, buying and selling used machine tools. People ask how I got into it. The first answer is nepotism. Um, this
It just happens sometimes.
it happens so it just so happens that my grandfather started this company, Graff-Pinkert, 80 years ago. And then my father and my uncle were in the business. My uncle, he's in a different business now, but it always been something. I'd been around, hadn't known what I was going to do for a while. And then in college, I majored in film. I made some documentaries. I was sort of interested in getting into that. And meanwhile, my dad, who has a master's in journalism, he had combined his two passions of the machinery business and um, and writing, and had started his own B2B magazine about our industry, the specifically the turn parts, the screw machine industry. And so it's 2005, and I'm 25, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Um, and he lures me in. He's like, "Look, you know, broadband is coming." He was like about 2 years ahead of his time. We're you could come in, you can make video stories to go along with all the stuff we're doing. And so I go in and I give it a shot, and then I start writing and blogging, and eventually, come about 2011, we just took the whole thing online because print was dead. and
Mm-hmm.
and so we had it online. We were blogging, etc. Um, and then about 5 years ago, I started Swarfcast, which is a podcast about the same stuff we talk about with Today's Machining World. That's the name of the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be a magazine, now it's a blog. And we're very into stories of people in the business and speaking our mind about whatever we think our listeners, readers would be interested in. My dad writes a blog every week, and we send it out to a zillion people, and then I put out a podcast and or sometimes a blog. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we interview shop owners and people who um, we feel like are going to help them in their business, people in specifically the machining business, the turn parts business. And so I do that maybe 10 to 20% of my time. And then the rest of the time, I buy and sell used machinery around the world. And I like to call myself a treasure hunter.
Yeah.
It's people ask me how do you get that idea of treasure hunter, and so it was about 2008, 2007. I was going in through a transition in my life. Not that I'm not still, and I was seeing an analyst, and he, at the same time, I was making a documentary about all of the Chicago locations of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I was going to all the Chicago locations and like recapturing the magic of the film. And you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. It's called Saving Ferris. And
oh man, I'm going to.
yeah, I mean, it was really fun. We got a Ferrari replica, and we went into the house that he's in, and we took it down Lakeshore Drive, went to the Cub game, went to all these houses where the movie takes place, where he's running through all the backyards and stuff. So I'm telling my analyst this, and he's like, well, you're a treasure hunter, just like all this stuff that you're doing, you're scouting your locations. You're going around the world looking for interesting machines that are undervalued, that are, in crazy places. And, it creates so much better of a romantic framework in your head versus, I go and I buy dirty machinery from 50 years ago that nobody wants, and then I sell it to somebody else for more money than I bought it for, which is also true. But it's more fun to be a treasure hunter, and I think when you have that in your mind, it can change the tone. It can change the way you go about things, and when I connect with other dealers, I call them on the phone and I go, so do you got any treasure? What do you got for me today?
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. A lot of our business, you mentioned serendipity, I think, in the introduction. And this is a word my dad always liked to use. One thing leads to another. You just sort of feel like you're getting lucky,
Yeah.
And then I interviewed a guy for our podcast, for Swarfcast. I believe it's episode 123, and it's with a guy named Christian Bush, who wrote a book recently, about a year or two ago, called The Serendipity Mindset. And in this book, it's got all these different tactics, all these different strategies of how you can find serendipity. So it's not just dumb luck.
Yeah.
I fell into this one thing, because you ever notice how there are certain people who always seem to be in the right place at the right time, like these really lucky people. And there are ways that you can do this. So, so you find these crazy machines. I mean, like to the treasure hunter. Yeah. I mean, I've bought machines. I bought a machine in Slovenia for a Spanish customer. I found this machine online from this Slovenian dealer, and I got together with it, and it was like the most esoteric machine. There's just like a few of them in the world, hence the reason why we would go to Slovenia. And the machine was in a barn, and you could hear cows mooing in in the room next door. Or we actually bought some machines. This was before I was there, but we bought some machines in the caves under Kansas City, because
oh my goodness,
the U.S., we had this arsenal of you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. This wasn't there like old salt mines or something like that under Kansas City, that they're mines of some sort that now they use them for storage and other things in there.
Yeah. So like, I guess during the Korean War, our government was trying to prepare for for the next war. And so they had these huge Conomatic multi-spindle screw machines, and they kept it in there. But anyways, back to the Serendipity. You want me to talk about
Well,
some of the
let's talk.
strategies,
Got some questions about this, because you've it's got to be. I think about this first of all from your dad.
Yeah.
Being in this business, he's second generation. Your dad's second generation. You're third generation in this business. So second generation person. He's got a working or got to use machinery of the year, however he's part of it, and he decides to write a blog or have a magazine. What was his deal there? Because most people I'm slinging machines, right? And that's what I got to do. But he's talking about, I got to write. What was
sort of? I think it's sort of like me with the film stuff, actually, and the podcast stuff. Like he grew up, around the business and liked the business, but then he decided he had always been really interested in writing ever since he was a kid. He laughs about sending stories to Reader's Digest when he was a kid and having stuff published. So at University of Michigan, he enlisted in the Navy to dodge the draft, and then after that he came back and he got a master's in journalism. But then he met my mom, and they decided to have a family, and he had the choice whether he wanted to go with some of his colleagues and go work for the New York Times or whatever, or join the family treasure hunting business. And he liked both, and so he did that. And then he, back in the late 80s or 90s, he started his own thing. He calls it a zine. He had a zine before everybody has a zine, and it was called the Graff-Pinkert Times.
Yeah.
And then later, he decided to start. He started a website. He believed he started a website, I think, in, I don't know, the late 90s. He figured he was going to have this blog and sell out his blog, and he was a little ahead of his time, and then that didn't catch on because people weren't ready for it, and so they started a magazine called Screw Machine World, because screw machines are what we specialize in, turn parts that go into everything from aerospace to medical to automotive. And then later on, they wanted to make it a little bit more, still machining, but they changed it to today's machining world because, a lot of the screw machining companies, they run other kinds of CNC lathes. And so as, our business changed some, we still specialize in the multi-spindles, but we sell CNC lathes and, whatever we think our customers are interested in. But it's still, you don't want to be doing the same thing everybody else is doing, right? So be versatile, but we're not exactly generalists, and there's a place for being a generalist, but I don't know. We think I feel like the machines. So I work with this guy Rex. He was kind of I apprenticed under him. We'd go on the road finding stuff, and he always said, the machines you make the most money on are the dirty machines and the weird machines that nobody really knows what the heck they are. So, that's one of the things about the screw machines is people don't really know what they're worth sometimes, or they look old. A mechanical screw machine. I was born in 1980. So if a mechanical screw machine was built after I was born, I consider it it's considered a relatively new screw machine. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that, so that's kind of how it morphed. So it went into today's machining world, and then it went online. And then do you know what the word swarf means?
Yes. But to
Okay.
explain it to the people that
Yeah,
don't.
most people probably don't know it. It's sort of I think it's a British term. All the chips and grime in the bottom of the machine, that's called swarf. And so when my dad started Screw Machine World, his like personal column was called swarf, because it was like, I'm getting into the guts, the down.
But this is good. It's good, dude, because you guys took something that you go to any other machinery dealer, right? Any other machinery dealer, any kind of machines, different stuff, right? And you guys did something to stand out. And it's really interesting to me that your father thought about this in, like you said, whenever it was in the 90s, and thinking about this, building a website, going online, doing the things that nobody else was doing. Yes, ahead of the time. But what has carried throughout, and we'll continue to talk about here, is that differentiating factor. Both you're specializing in equipment, and you have something that you're connecting with people in the industry through today's machining world.
I think, yeah, you totally hit it. The thing is, I think both of us, could we make more money? Maybe, if we didn't do the other stuff, because it takes quite a bit of our time.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but if you have something that you're passionate about, that keeps you in the game, we do it for that. I think we do spend a lot of time. Some of the people in our company probably get annoyed because they see us working on stuff like that. But it is a part of the business. A lot of people eventually say, oh, finally one day they buy a machine and they go, oh my God, I've been following you for 20 years. And
yes,
we've gotten into this buying and selling companies now, machining companies. And we sold one this year, and the guy called and said, the reason I went with you was because I heard your ad on your podcast that you guys do this. Yeah. So I was like, all right, 5 years of the podcast, and now we sold the company, which Damon, I'm sure, that would probably really get your juices flowing.
Yeah. Well, it's you guys have done something. You've built a community around today's machining world that is around your business. It helps to differentiate you and create advocates for your business. I'm sure you get people because of this long-term, you're there, Graff-Pinkert is there. They got today's machining world. You get people calling you up all the time that have machines. I'm sure that they've heard about you. They got a machine. They want to get rid of it, or they want one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's really, if they call because it does give us credibility. It does. But I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't know if, I feel like people call if they think that you have something that they want to buy or they want to sell. They might call for advice because they've seen it, and maybe somebody who has a venture and they want to work with us. But usually it's what's on the damn website, whether they, but I think it's part of the whole serendipity thing. Again, I mean, it is totally, it's all connected, and I think it connects us mentally also. It keeps us in the game. It keeps our heads right. And so that's the story with that.
Yeah. So you talked about this. What is one of the big nuggets that you found in your treasure hunts that sticks out in your mind? You talked about the one in Slovenia. You talked
Okay,
about the
I got a
performance
good
against.
one. Okay,
Yeah.
I got a good one. But before I get to that, I want to tell you what some of the strategies are, and then that'll lead into some of these
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
treasure hunting things. So, okay, so and I didn't make this up, but I've really made a study of this guy. His name is Christian Bush, and so he's got several things. One thing he likes is it's called serendipity bombs. So, say you are looking for something. Say you're looking for uh, you have a couple dream guests that you want on your podcast. You rather than just like email one or contact one, like email 6 of them because one might stick. It seems like a very simple thing, like it's a numbers game, but it's like, bombing in football. You just
Mm-hmm.
throw it up and sometimes really good things will happen.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Pretty obvious. Another thing is called serendipity hooks, and this is one of these gold things that really it changes your mindset and then it creates discovery. So a good this is where you say things in your conversation that trigger new things happening, triggers magic. So for instance, if somebody asks me what I do for a living, I mean, first, I don't know if I love that question. Anyways, I don't, but anyways, if somebody asks me what I do for a living, rather than just say, oh, I'm a machinery dealer, first of all, if I say that, everybody's just going to go, huh? So I say, well, I'm a used machinery dealer. I'm also a podcast host, and I'm also really into salsa dancing. I've been doing it a long time, but now lately I just haven't had that much time to do it because I have a 1.5-year-old son who just keeps me really busy. So all of a sudden you have 4 or 5 things to talk about. All of a sudden that strikes a chord with people, and they may not have anything to say to you about 1 or 2 of them, but I was surprised, and I guess I shouldn't have been, but when you tell people about having a child, like that's one of the like number one things that gets people's interest and
Yeah.
creates a conversation. Oh, I have a 1.5-year-old. What kind of crazy stuff does he do? Right.
Yeah.
So for instance, I might use this with machinery dealing, like where, say, I have a Swiss CNC machine, like a Citizen Swiss CNC machine. They're used a lot in like medical parts. And somebody contacts me about it and they saw it on the website. Rather than just like send them a quote and be done with it,
Mm-hmm.
I will look at their website. I'll find out what other machines they have on their website, and then I'll see what the heck I have, right? Because so they're asking for a Citizen, but maybe they also have Stars, and I have a Star in stock. That's like an alternative to a Citizen. So then I call them and we talk about the machine. And then I go, I noticed on your website you have Star machines. We happen to have a whole bunch of those as well. And all of a sudden, because you called and you made a
Yeah.
connection, that's like very key for creating serendipity. But again, you brought up something totally different in the conversation than the original question. And all of a sudden, maybe something totally better started. And we do the same thing lately. We've been our one of our latest businesses is buying and selling machining companies. So after I'm done with like every conversation, I insert the hook. We buy and sell machining companies. Have you guys ever thought about growing through acquisition? And I generally don't like to ask people if they want to sell their company.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you ask them about one question, the other one will come out.
Mm-hmm.
And and maybe I'll say, or do you happen to know of anybody that wants to buy or sell a company? And some of the ones for sale, that's how they came out. So you asked, about a story. I'll give you a story using some of those things. All right. So this was back 2016. I know this or 2017. I had just started dating my future wife, and back then things were really fun because pre-COVID, you got to travel all over the world for machines. The older folks I work with, they don't feel like traveling anywhere. So I'm the guy that gets to travel. So there's a machine called an Index. This is a CNC multi-spindle screw machine. This is like you want to make millions of parts and they're really complicated. This is like the state of the art thing. If you bought one now, you're talking like $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
But the machines we sell, we like to joke that we specialize in imperfect equipment. You don't really you make money on the dirty, weird ones, right?
Yeah, the dirty and weird, like you said.
So there's a machine. This was an MS-42 from 1999. They stopped making these like in the late 90s. And it had a guy in Brazil who was interested, a guy named Rogerio. And there was a guy named Wolfgang in Germany who I had talked to. I had seen this MS-42 online. And I say, hey, Wolfgang, I'm interested in the machine. He gives me a price. He's like, okay, go. It's like 3 hours from Stuttgart. We'll reserve the machine for you. So Rogerio and we fly over to Stuttgart. He flies from Brazil. We drive 3 hours. We go see the machine. Really likes it. And he says, okay, this is good. I need to go home and talk to my boss. And, can you hold it for me for a week? And I said, look, I'm happy to hold it for you, but I know in this business when people hold things, it's not exactly a hold. And so he goes home. I go back to Stuttgart. Next morning, I call them to make sure the machine is reserved. I'm lying in bed. I call him and he says, sorry, the machine's been sold. So, I flew all over. And worse for the guy from Brazil, right? And what I always do is whenever I go somewhere, particularly when I don't have a wife or a kid, I leave a bunch of time to go visit other people because things always seem to be happening while you're traveling. I don't know why. Like you're out of your paradigm, adventures, serendipity, they always seem to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lying in bed. I'm just like, all right, I decide to, at the time, I didn't really know what it was, but I throw a serendipity bomb. I call my friend Javier, the same guy who went and bought the machine from Slovenia. He's our best Index customer, and he's in Barcelona, Spain. I call him, and I said, "Hey, Javier, do you have anything you wanna sell?" And he goes, "Well, actually, we have like 3 MS-42s, from like 1999." And that was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to Barcelona right now, which no offense to Stuttgart, but Barcelona is like,
A lot more fun.
amazing. So
Yeah.
I go to Barcelona, check out the machines. They look good. I call Rogerio. Rogerio's like, these look good, but I have to, I need a couple weeks to come back. This time I was able to get a hold because I know them pretty well. So I get a hold, and then my wife, she just so happened to have lost her job, and she didn't really like that job anyways. So it sucked, but it was a good thing in the end.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, look, I have to go back for these machines, and you don't have a job right now. Why don't you just come with me? We'll just travel all over Europe looking at machines and mess around. And so we do it. We go there and end up selling the machines to Rogerio. I sell them 2 instead of 1.
Oh my goodness.
Make like way more money.
Yeah.
And then we had a vacation out of it. And then while I'm there, this guy from Holland calls looking for this crazy, strange multi-spindle screw machine that I had seen from my friend Paolo in Milan. And I was like, wait a second, I know of this machine. Like, so we had planned to go from Spain and then go to Denmark and go look at some machines in Sweden. But on the way, I'm like, hey, let's make a stop in Milan. Go make a stop in Milan.
That's too bad they had to do that.
Sell these 2 machines. And it all came because of a deal that went wrong.
Yeah.
So, there were several things going on. There was Serendipity Bomb. There's Serendipity Hook. I went and called and asked him about something specific. I didn't say like, how are you? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then another serendipity thing is he calls it connecting the dots. So you want to have a huge network. You want to know lots of different kinds of people from all over the place. And it's amazing when they come together and help you. And one of the things he prescribes is that when you meet someone new, you want to go through your brain and go, who else do I know that this person would benefit from? Like these 2 people could get together. And so you create new dots.
Mm-hmm.
And by you connecting people, it's like you create new connections in this universe. It's like it all revolves around you. And you just, more serendipity comes and you just create this whole world.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's awesome. And it is incredible how that happens. And like you said before we got on, I believe, you were talking about how it just seems like some people are just lucky and this serendipity just comes to them, but it's really because of how they're acting. They're helping it along. Your example of if I want a couple famous people on my podcast, send 6 different people emails because you got a better chance of it happening, or you give people more options, or creating this network like you're talking about is so key for long term in business, because these are strategies that it's serendipity. It's a word that you may not consider with business that often, but the results of creating serendipitous relationships and
just having your eyes and ears open constantly. I mean, it's always happening where, like, just like that story, somebody calls about one machine that you don't even have. And then you go, oh, shoot, I know about this machine. My friend Randy in California told me about this machine the other day. Call up Randy. Randy tells me about it. And then, boom, make this whole another deal.
Yeah.
Of course, I make it sound really easy. But it's not. It's like any business. when business is good, it seems kind of easy, and when it's bad, you're
It's
just
not.
like, where. Then you really have to like dig deep and keep looking for the serendipity, because it's there, I guess. It just,
Gotta keep searching for it.
you have to keep
Okay.
searching for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's amazing in my experience how when you help good things happen with people, how it comes back around. You don't know when, you don't know how, but if you keep your eyes and ears open, it does. And that's why when we talked about serendipity and talking about today and talking about serendipity strategies in business, and I thought this really interesting, because a lot of people in your type of business or in many businesses think it's about this relationship. What are we doing? What are we exchanging? What are we exchanging? And it's money or it's equipment or whatever. And it's really about exchanging goodwill in some cases, or giving, so that people, just so that you can give. That's not for anything other than of being able to help people, because that's in this imaginary bank that if it does two things. One, it makes you feel good. And if feeling good, let's do it for feeling good and for helping other people. Two, is maybe doesn't need to, because you've already got one benefit. You feel good because you help somebody. But that second piece that does come around every once in a while, you go, holy heck, this is connected. I mean, literally before we got on, and I would say that literally before we got on, you and I talked about this a long time ago about having you come on the Faces of Business. In between the time we talked about that, I got contacted by a company that I can't help, but I know that you probably can, or you have a much better chance.
Total serendipity.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I gotta get you in touch with them. We got to do this thing. Cause it's like this stuff happens. And like you said, you build your network of great people, you do these things, and it comes around. It's just so cool, because a lot of people get stuck on, we gotta do business this way. We're trying to get, and it just doesn't work that good. It's not nearly as much fun.
It's not as much fun. Yeah. Do you find, though, it, not to get negative, but I mean, there are certain people in our business, a few, that are just rotten, and they will do anything they can to steal from you, to screw you over. And these guys are survivors. Like, I go, how is it that you've been in business for 40 years? How is it that anybody trusts you? That you haven't been totally smeared? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
There's
again, this is just like a little negative.
But there are in
Question,
any industry, there are people that are like that. There are people that will do things that's beneficial to them, even though they know it's not beneficial to the other person.
They're just takers.
They're taken. And I know it's like, I don't know. I can't explain it either.
But yeah, I mean, like I think I totally believe in everything you're saying about, like, if you give, then things will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so like baffled by how these people that will just stab you in the heart if they can. They don't, and I don't even think they think they're doing anything wrong. I think they just think like that's the world, right? Like that's what they've been taught.
I don't know.
We'll keep the conversation going in like a positive light. I mean, we are just laughing about them, but
yeah. And I think you know what? I think if that's their way, that's their way, man. I'm doing my way. That's the thing and I love the way you guys are doing it. I mean, all the way from your dad starting the magazine of all things.
I like how you're digging deep into the origins, because
I mean, the origin's cool, because you guys were doing stuff before anybody else. And then, it's very rare that your father and you, the journalistic, the creative part that you guys like, you share that way, and you've been able to come all the way through and transition the magazine to the online to now the podcast and the other things that you guys are doing along with the magazine. It's really cool, man. And it probably happened. You didn't even realize how cool it was. It just happened.
It just happened. I mean,
Yeah.
we do realize it's cool.
Yeah.
I
Good.
I've been, I really try to work on being present and just my dad's 79. We know that nothing lasts forever,
Yeah.
like we're sitting across the table arguing about a deal, arguing about debating about like today we spent 15 minutes just like going back and forth about like a title and a question at the end of his blog. Like what are people going to answer? What are people going to open? And you have to like just go and stop yourself for a second and go, this is like precious, like
It is.
Like you better stop and enjoy this right now. And he just wrote a blog about it actually, and we published the latest podcast about it. It's called it's like Why I'm Still Working or something. And he published it as a blog, and then I said, I think this would be a good, we do, most of the podcasts are interview podcasts, but then I've gotten more into doing solo podcasts about serendipity.
Yeah.
And this is the first podcast where he pretty much did a solo podcast. I had him read it and read his blog, and I kind of produced it, did it yesterday. So it's kind of something different.
Yeah. I go again, you guys in your creative abilities and what you're doing mixed with your business is really unique.
It seems like that's something that you do.
Well, I do, because I think you're unique. I'm unique, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in, but I think you look at what have people done to be standout in their industry, right? And I don't care, just pick whoever. Pick the automotive industry, pick whatever industry. There are people that were willing to do things a little bit differently their way. And it really are there cool stories, and they get to do some neat things. And you guys are, that's what I think.
It's nice when you have something like this, and then, you have somebody, it's like I mean, look, as you can tell, I'm sort of analytical, and I'm constantly reflecting, but still, when somebody interviews you, you kind of sit back and look at yourself, and again, you get present in the moment and appreciate it.
Yeah. So you guys are doing some good stuff, man. And I really appreciate you sharing this. And so if people want to look at some of these used screw machines that you guys have, they go to your website, which is
Graff-Pinkert.
Graff-Pinkert.
Graffpinkert.
Yeah. And then you can help them also with if they've got a machining business, they're looking to buy more businesses, they're looking to sell businesses, you can help them with that. You guys have been in that for a long, long time. And oh man, you guys just know what you're doing in that industry. So it's so cool. So what are you excited about for 2024? Man, other than your 1.5-year-old kid. I mean, son.
I honestly, I don't know where the year's gone.
You've got a 1.5-year-old child in the house. That's where the year's gone, man. It's cut right through that. That's true. Trying to work. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, if you want to, and and I'm always concerned about like time slipping away and not paying any attention. And that's why I keep a diary every single night. I write down something I've learned every day. I'll write down something serendipitous that happened to me today.
Awesome.
Because again, I like, you know, it's scary when you go, well, what did I do this week? What did I do today?
Yes.
But to answer your question, what am I looking forward to in 2024? I honestly haven't even really thought about it.
There you go.
As far as business wise, I think the consulting, machining business, brokering, we see growth there. It is, my child, it's pretty amazing.
That you're gonna have a great year for that. I mean, these years are just crazy.
How many
fun.
kids do you have?
Dose.
They're
older, but it's a ball.
So, I mean, that, right. I mean, so that, and I'm looking forward to growing the podcast, and who knows what else. I always have to have some strange, crazy project hanging over my head. I would love to learn better I'm working. I started doing goal setting more recently.
There you go.
You'd think that somebody, 43 would have done something more formal, but I've been doing like, you ever heard of a guy named Shad Helmstetter?
No, I have not.
He's written a lot of books about neuroplasticity, and no, I didn't even know the word neuroplasticity until it was explained to me, I guess. But the whole thing is self-talk. So this guy specializes in positive self-talk. Everybody has negative self-talk. So like, you wake up in the morning and you turn it on, put headphones on, and he's got different things that he talks about. One is goal setting. My wife, sometimes she laughs, but at it, I set goals. I write them down. I read them morning and night, or you're a winner. Like, and so, yeah, I've been getting into that, and
that's cool. I mean, seriously, there are so many things that every year in my life has brought me so many things that I realized I wish I would have learned many years sooner. And when you can learn them now, doesn't matter. And they are going to sound goofy. You're going to think some of these are crazy, but they're not. They're not. There are so many people that have experienced things beyond us. And I think it's just a great example of, you're reading, growing, continuing to try to explore new ways to be better at what you do as a father, as a person in business. I mean, man,
I like to think that I'm just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your dad too. I mean, look at your dad. He's in that because he digs it, right? This is good stuff. And it's the way it should be. So,
well, I love your energy. You've got, I and all the respect in the world to do a live podcast. Like, you should see, my stuff's edited, like, but usually me, it's all the ums and ahs, and I think that I'm the one that really gets edited. I was like, did I even write you an email? All I did was like fill out a thing online, right? Or
we knew each other through another friend of ours, and I'd gone out and listened to some of your podcasts, and that's how we got out. Oh yeah.
I can tell that you prepared. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you. We're running down of time here, Noah, and I know time goes fast because it's fun. It's fun. You're a little apprehensive at the beginning. I said, no, man, we got this. We're going to have fun because you are passionate about what you do. You guys are, helping people with their equipment, helping people buy and sell businesses. And I enjoy it a lot.
I really enjoyed this. This is one of the funnest interviews I've had. So
awesome.
Well done to you. You know what you're doing. How many podcasts have you done? A lot.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, a few hundred at least.
And how many do you do a day? I mean, or a week?
We do usually 4. Yeah.
You must have so many dots. How can you even keep track of all your dots? That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, we have fun doing it. You have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. And but it is there's a lot of dots in the serendipity. Serendipity happens, man.
No offense against anybody out there, but really, if you have 4 new people every single week, like, how can you have quality control over somebody?
Well, it doesn't mean the dot is ever visited again. But there's some people that you connect with. There's some people that you're going to do. And because if you don't go through, it's just like, how many people did you date before you found the woman that you're married to?
Enough.
Yeah, exactly. It happens in life.
I know. I just feel like I don't want to put anything out there unless I would, and I'm like, I'd want to listen to this. You know, there have only been like 2 or 3 podcasts where I've just thrown them out, just like, this just isn't good enough.
Yeah.
But I don't know. More power to you. I think it's incredible. Yeah. So well done to you.
All right. Well, man, Noah, thanks for being here today. Just hang on for a second, because I want to thank the people that were listening, and then we're going to jump off and we'll finish up. So thanks, MD, for being here today. Gene, Francois, thanks from Saudi. Awesome. We got, and anybody else that's listening too, we appreciate you coming back every week. We'll be back again next Tuesday. More awesome guests. You know, this is just, we love having people like Noah on that can teach us about how business, life, serendipity in this case, come together. And it's just so much fun. Thanks everyone for being here. Noah, thanks again. Hang out just for a moment and we'll finish things up after we're not